Test.
Test.
Really whip the llama's ass. That was Winamp. It was an old MP3 player on the computer. Do you ever have that? Winamp? It went Winamp.
No.
Welcome to the Creative and Code podcast.
Welcome to the internet, my friend.
Brought to you by ID Digital Agency.
Kind of a big deal.
Dive into the dynamic world of digital marketing, creative design, and coding with top experts, latest trends, and actionable insights. Let's get inspired and innovate together.
It's showtime.
Welcome to Creative and Code. I'm here with Jay Boston.
How's it going, Emily?
Good.
Good.
It's
a Friday today.
It's a Friday. I feel like it's been quite a week.
It's been a hell of a week.
Yeah.
And it doesn't happen that often, but when it does, you're just like, oh, I like the other weeks more.
Yeah. But I guess you've got to have bad weeks to have good weeks.
Totally. Or else you don't
It's
appreciate
all relative.
the good times,
Exactly.
do you? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are the founder and director of ID Digital Agency. And I think it's just nice to give the listeners some context about who you are and what ID is and how you kind of got to this point.
All right.
So how did it all begin is the first question.
Well, okay, let's step back. 2000, I finished year 12. I went to a private school. Don't hold it against me. A lot of people do.
I mean, I did too. So,
Did you? Oh, that's good to know.
Tragically, we're both very privileged.
But I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was at school, other than I liked IT. Back then, that was all it was as well at high school, was just IT.
It's just
and it had
IT.
a bunch of different stuff in it.
So that was anything to do with computers.
Yeah. You were in a computer lab and you were doing Word and Excel and Microsoft front page back then. And
I like how Word was under the same umbrella as like web design.
yeah.
Because it was both on
Microsoft.
computers.
It was
That's so
Microsoft
funny.
Office. I think it was the professional package or something. And it had
Nice.
Word, Excel, Access, front page, a whole bunch of stuff. And front pages, that was my first look into websites. And I was like, wow, I can like create something and then put it online. I think it was GeoCities back then, which is the free hosting that you could get.
Oh, okay.
Put it onto your own domain name or a subdomain, and I'm like, wow, this exists in the whole world, something that I've put out there, and people can just type in a link and click in it, and I can put whatever I want on this. This is awesome. I thought that was really cool. And yeah, we made crappy websites at school, and it was your favorite movies or your hobbies and all that usual stuff for your portfolio. And I'm like, no, I think there's some traction with this stuff. And this is, 2001. I went to uni in 2001, did a double degree in multimedia and communications at Monash. And yeah, during that time, like that IT kind of course, well, not it was a course, it was like a class. Multimedia was encompassing everything in multimedia, again, all the stuff that you could possibly do on a computer. 3D, websites, coding, animation, stock photography, like all this stuff. And really, I think the first couple of years you were meant to go, yeah, I know what I want to do now, it's this. And then the fourth year is where you kind of focus in on that. But I wasn't willing to wait. In the second year, I'd set up a company, an ABN. Not a company, sorry, it was just a trading name and a ABN, and I started making websites. Something that you probably didn't know is that how I got my first clients, my dad was my first client, but it was pharmaceutical, and there's only so much pharmaceutical websites that you can make. Like, did lots of them because I did a website for the company that my dad was working for. Other pharmaceutical companies found out about it in the healthcare industry and all that kind of stuff. And like after a couple of years, once you've made some good money, and I decked out my MX6 with subwoofers and all that kind of stuff, I was like, no, I need to try something different. So the way I did it, I was still working at Village Roadshow. I was at one of the Village cinemas, and I was in the gold class area. So we had gold vests.
Oh, classy.
Yeah, I'd have to.
Love it.
Let's see if I can remember what, welcome to gold class. Have you been to gold class before? No. Oh, so, these are the two cinemas. They've both got recliners in them. Best to order your food 30 minutes before you go in. You can get your food to come in at any time that you like. Just let us know what you'd like and when.
I like this.
We'll sort it out for you.
You could jump back into it.
Yeah, look at that. Yep, the lounge is just here. Take a seat. would you like a drink? You get them a glass of wine or something, or whatever they want. And then they sit down, you go over to them. And anyway, so there was a whole process, and that's where I think I started realising that processes were the way to do things, and customers expect them and things too. But getting back to it, I realised that there was this big glass jar that when people were leaving, they saw it said on it, throw your business card in here to win a gold class session for you and your team, basically. And it was full. It was huge. So I went to the manager, I think at like midnight that night I was closing, and then I had to open up again in the morning. I'm like, would you mind if I took the business cards out of this, wrote them down in an Excel spreadsheet and brought them back? It's got nothing to do with the cinemas, but I'd love to be able to grab those details and send them a letter. Back then it was a letter. Post,
oh my God.
Right? Because, people didn't have like websites. It was just a kind of new thing. And the best way to contact them or to find local businesses was to just fill out
their address out of the phone book.
Yeah, and they said, no worries. It's got nothing to do with us. There's no conflict of interest, blah, blah, blah. So I wrote it out. I think I finished at like 3 o'clock in the morning. There was about 100 contacts in there. And then I did my job. I went back the next day, finished that. And then I did a mail merge in Microsoft Word, sent it out, and I got 2 bites, which was really good.
That's pretty good.
2%, which is about what you get
just
these
like cold
days
calling.
It's like it's like what you normally get on Google Ads or whatever. You get a 2% conversion rate. You're like, sweet. Like, it was pretty good. So one of them was a skin care clothing company called Radical, with 2 O's, Radical. And cool. Another one I think was a pool hall, billiards and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And that Radical company, I think we were doing things for them for about 12 years. So it was a good client. We did multiple websites, online stores, branding, photography, all kinds of stuff. So it was worth it in the end. And then once that happened and I started to get a good portfolio, my mum's partner at the time was working for a company, Belgravia Leisure. He just happened to say, I know a kid that knows how to do great websites. And from that, we are still working with Belgravia Leisure now. And we've done over 100 websites with them, email campaigns, branding, lots and lots of stuff. And it's just those little things. Like I find if I convince myself to go out and go to a networking event or just talk here in this amazing place, Central House, that we work from, people need what you do. And you likely need what they do. So it's just communicating and letting people know what you do and not forcing it upon them. But that's just what we've done. Never advertised online. We have a website, but we don't do active advertising. You do your social posts and things, but we're not pushing it out there at all. And I think that just shows that the work that we're doing is being seen, and it's been word of mouth everywhere too. So that's just been the whole philosophy since I started is, get out there if you need to, talk to as many people as you can, let them know what you do, what's unique about you.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good philosophy, I guess, to like run the business. So how did you go from, like, we're an agency of 10 people now. So you're going from like a bedroom company essentially to 10 people. What was that journey like?
Yeah. So I was working out of my mum's house, like I was still living at home when this all started, which when I was 19. And I remember on the business cards I had level 1 because it was upstairs. And I had my own
That's brilliant.
fixed line phone number that was installed by Telstra at a huge expense. Well, I thought it was back in the day. And it was great. I remember the number, 98138558 or something like that. It was, and it was on business cards, and faxes were still around, so you'd be faxing through quote requests and things. And it was a lot more things that you had to do as part of that. But once I realised that I had too much work that I could do myself, then and at that time I moved out with one of my mates, Simon. We got a house in Ashwood. We got it was really affordable, 3-bedroom townhouse, and we sold it really well, and we made some good money out of that. But he was a developer, so it kind of worked. I liked doing the design. He did all the development. And that worked really well. We had some big clients. We had Qantas, we had Visi Closed Loop. We had a range of them. Even though it was my business, I would ask him for a quote. He'd do the work. He had his own ABN. I'd pay his ABN, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
And it meant no overheads, no super, none of that stuff. Back
Nice
then.
and simple.
Yeah, just give me a quote, I'll give you the money to do it. And it worked. But then it got to a point where the work had got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm like, I need this done. He's trying to chill and he's with his girlfriend at the time. And it just became unprofessional. So I was like, yep, it's now time to move out of the house and, not try and pretend that you've got an office. You always meet at cafes or whatever as well. And or you organise like hotel boardrooms and things to make it seem a bit more fancy. I started speaking to family, and then the family spoke to other people in the family and realised one of my cousins needed someone to co-lease a place in Armidale, and we were in there for like 7 years, but we took over half of a space. There was a jewellery store. There was my cousin's shop, which was Le Folie, which we still do work for as well, which is great. Hi, Cecile. And we were in that other half of the half.
Right.
And by we, I mean not Simon. He was doing his own thing, but I hired a guy called Matt, and he was my first hire. We turned the trading name into a company, a PTY Ltd. And that's where, salaries, superannuation, taxes, all that kind of stuff change. And that was a big moment.
That's a big step.
Yeah, now that we've got 10 or 11 people now, that you've got to make sure the work's coming in, the work's at a high standard, it keeps coming in, and clients keep coming back, and you got salaries and expectations and people and rent and all kinds of stuff that you have to pay for. Biggest one right now for me is subscriptions. Like, that is just nuts. We've got so many people on the Adobe licenses. We've got Copilot, which is the AI tool. There's 4 or 5 developers that are on that. There's all kinds of plugins and extensions for some of the platforms that we use. Am I missing anything? Oh, Final Cut Pro.
SEMrush.
SEMrush.
Yeah. So much. Yeah. Everything.
There's so many subscriptions, and you can't do without them. It's just ChatGPT as well. There's another one there. And it's not just your subscription. You've got to give that to everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically.
So all of that times 10.
It adds up. Yeah.
Yeah,
so
scary.
Luckily, it didn't have that at the start, and ChatGPT and AI and all that wasn't there.
Well, that's the thing. And you could buy it one-off back then.
Yeah.
One-off license for Photoshop. Now
exactly. So when we moved into Armidale, and I think Matt was with us for 2 years or so, this guy, he was a developer, but he had really good technique and eye, and he did some branding and things. And he was dedicated, and I hope he's doing well wherever he is. But he and I used to just run the show, and it was super lean. We'd get the work done that we had to during the day. It might hit 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we'd spend the rest of the day just playing like Mario emulators or Mario Kart or PlayStation or whatever. We had a screen up and stuff there. The good old days.
Yes.
Where, these days as a bigger agency, you got to set the example. You got to lead. Sometimes we have fun. We have our weekly lunches and breakfasts and all the things that happen at Central House and the Commons. So, you need time off and to break up the day a bit too. So, it's good. And that's, from there we hired, and we grew really rapidly. We had some really amazing clients, and we still have most of them to this day. But we got the staff levels up to like 14 or 15 at one stage, and it was jam-packed. We actually, not in that little half of the half, we took over that entire space. The jewellery store left, and then my cousins decided to leave, and I think they went into a new space in Albert Park, which was really nice, a shop front and everything for their clothing store, and Sophie the Giraffe and all that kind of stuff. But we took over, really nice, high ceilings, polished floorboards. We converted it into an office space with meeting rooms, and it was really nice. I'll see if I can get some photos, and we might put them up as a thing on Instagram or whatever too. But it got to a point where we had managers and we had strategists, designers, developers, like all this stuff, but we weren't ready for it. We grew too fast, and there was more money going out than what there was coming in, and we had to make some drastic costs, and plus we had some people that we hired that were great to start with, and then just it didn't go well, bad eggs, and it created a culture that was quite negative and things. So luckily,
interesting.
Over a year or so, when people are like that, they naturally go away, or you don't want to kind of pressure them out as well. You try and make sure that you can fix the problems or suggest alternatives and things, and tried that heaps. But now, jumping very forward, we've got an amazing team, and everyone has a joke here and there and likes to catch up outside of work and do all the events that are happening in here too.
Well, I guess you learn from your mistakes. So I guess having a team of like 15, the lessons learned from that have now like allowed you to create a better team of 10.
Totally. And we've hired better. We've hired higher skills. We've hired people that are more diverse and more accepting and more understanding of what we're trying to do. A lot of people that we have have also had their own businesses or done things on the side, so they know what it's like to hustle, and bringing that awareness to a business is so important. That it's, we just don't get the work and you get it done. We have to make sure it's done to a high standard so that they do come back and appreciate and see the value of what we do.
For sure.
Yeah.
So how do you approach, how do you view the work differently now that you're the leader of a team of 10 versus being on the tools, the designer? Has it changed your approach to the work itself?
Yeah, I'm not designing as much as I'd like to, but I have to run the business and I have to bring in the work and I have to make sure, staff get paid, clients pay, and we pay all our suppliers, subscriptions and all that stuff. So I'm focused on that. I'm also with Flo, our project manager, looking at bottom lines, budgets. We've got to do it.
Yeah.
It's part of the business, unfortunately. It'd be great to have someone that just as a BDM. We're just not at that point yet. But I can see us getting to about, 15 or so people. But it's taking those baby steps and just making sure we've got the right processes in place, which are there now. We've got really good project management tools. Emily's doing really good on the marketing front and using Trello to organise that and sharing and collaborating with clients. And we do weekly WIPs, like work in progress meetings. We do retrospective meetings every couple of weeks with the team just to find out how they're feeling and what they're doing and what they liked and didn't like about the last couple of weeks. And it's not serious. It's just being able to be comfortable and feeling like you can say whatever you want to say and being heard. I think that's really important too. That's some of the things that we've put into play. And I used to 5 years ago, 10 years ago, used to be very micromanaged because I could see problems and I tried to fix them at a minute level, and it didn't work because nobody likes to be picked and prodded. So I think stepping back and realizing that the people that you've got know what they're doing and let them have the freedom to do it. And if they take that on board and they run it and they're responsible, awesome. But that's when I think too you can start to see if they're not being responsible and not doing what they need to be doing or don't have the skills. Try and help them understand to get back on that track, or it's just not going to work.
Yeah, makes sense. So you mentioned Belgravia Leisure. You've had them as a client for over 20 years. How do you maintain that kind of client relationship to keep them on board for 2 decades?
It's hard, especially big companies like that. No problem that they have. Every big company has this, is that their turnover rate of staff is quite high, depending on your industry as well. And you've got to make sure that when someone that leaves, that you have been solely communicating with, that's your point of contact. If they leave, you've got to at least have other people that are there that know what you do and who you are.
Yeah.
So we try and make sure that we just don't have one point of contact, that members of different departments or management know who we are, what we do, and that's where I think our newsletters help. We try and get as many email addresses at all the different businesses that we run, put them into the newsletter. So if one of them needs something, that they go, I saw that newsletter the other day and I noticed that they've done things for us, they give us a call. Rather than just being like, I'll just go to, I'll call up or go to Google or whatever and find something locally. That's worked really well. So for instance, the city of Stonington, they've been a long-term client of ours too, I think 10 years or so. And that just started with a youth services website. And from that, we found out who the payer was, the accounts payable, and we found out who their boss was, and we just started to email them out the newsletter and say, I hope this is okay, and if they want to unsubscribe, feel free to, but we think we can give you lots of value. And then from there, they would contact us and go, do you do this? Do you do that? And you're like, yeah, we absolutely do. And because we've got that initial relationship, and like, we did this for Claudia. I know Claudia. They'll go off and ask, how was the relationship there? How did it work? Did they do good work? And I know that she said yes. And that's why we've got other work from them. And you've done workshops for them. We've done marketing campaigns for them for some of their art festivals. And it's just keeping them up to date. And it seems like sometimes newsletters, when you send them out, we've got about 1,500 or so, I think, people on that. You can see that they're getting read, but there's no action. And sometimes all it is just to remind people that you're there. So a month from when they've read that newsletter, they'll be like, yeah, I saw something in my email and I'll find out what that was and they'll give you a call.
Yeah,
so,
of course. It's just keeping top of mind.
Yeah, like even 2 approvals that we got this week were because, and they were from clients that we haven't spoken to in a little while, or haven't done work for, I should say. And they said, I saw the newsletter, it reminded me I need this. And you're like, awesome.
There we go.
So, yeah.
That's what makes a difference.
Yeah, that's why you're here, Emily, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, that's me. So on that note, how do you, where do you see the agency going? What are your goals, I guess, in terms of, where you want the business to be?
I've always wanted to make sure that this business is producing really good work from people that are passionate and want to be here. That's pretty much it. And to grow, I think I've never wanted to be a 200, 300 person agency. It's massive. And then you become a number. You're not really known and you don't have that face-to-face contact.
Yeah,
you get assigned a producer or a project.
Yeah, exactly. Your client relationships suffer.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas our team, our project management team, Flo and I think we've got a really good handle on how we look after our clients. And our clients, they come through for something, they do a major project work, we help them and support them with updates and changes and latest innovation or teaching them about AI or whatever it might be. So, yeah, I probably only want to get over to 15. My number was 13 because it's a lucky number. But 15 I think is a really good size. You could probably split your team into 2 and then you could also have them trying to gamify, who's done the best time logs, who's achieved the best budgets and that kind of thing and gamify it that way too. And that's really good for obviously morale, but it's also good for competition and things internally too. That's probably where I'd get to. And we're on our way. It's right now, and I think a lot of agencies are probably feeling it. It's volatile out there because of what's happening on the stock exchange, the global stock exchange, and getting big projects. I know a lot of our clients are hesitant to commit because they don't know what's happening.
Yeah, what's coming. Yeah.
But again, this happens annually. Right now it's budgets are being set and clients are holding off until they know what they can afford. And I reckon in the next couple of weeks, touch wood, it will go gangbusters too. So luckily for us, we've got a good pipeline. We've got consistent clients and we're always busy. But looking at what projects we want to work on and having that opportunity to have a choice is really important. This week, because it's been an interesting week, and I'm happy to talk about it. We lost 2 tenders that we thought we were really excited about and would be really challenging. But that's just part of the business too. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some.
That's it.
And we know that the tenders that we put forward were really good, competitive in cost and value. And sometimes, you wish tenders weren't so submit it and it's a yes or no.
Yeah, exactly.
It'd be awesome if they came back because you spend a lot of time on these things. Can we juggle this? Can we adjust this? And you would have gone, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they probably would have got a better output as well.
And even just having a presentation of the tender, having to have that open conversation would be so beneficial. But a lot of them just want a file full of documents to just
sucks.
see.
It's really bad, especially the tender process that a lot of government and a lot of bigger agencies go through is that you just submit a document.
Yeah.
And it's based on that and they have no idea who you are, your personality or anything like that. And normally we would present a video and go and meet with them, but that's just says do not do this, do not do this. And
it's crazy. But I guess that's the thing. Losing some tenders can mean better work in the future because if you'd got those ones, maybe a better project comes along you wouldn't have had the capacity for. So
and there's some amazing opportunities that are almost greenlit. Can't wait to share those opportunities.
Exciting things.
Yeah. So in terms of growth, we'll just jump back to that. So I know for some reason a lot of agencies or people perceive growth as being more and more people. And for me, growth is just making sure that you're growing your output. I think making sure it's better, making sure it's more efficient, becoming a more productive and happy place to work. I think that's growing. And maturity in your business is, I think, really important too. It's not just about how much you make and how many people you've got. I think if you've got the right people and they're highly skilled and they're here for the right reasons, it's better than having twice the amount of people at half the skill set. Yeah.
So is that how you measure success?
Yeah, I think it's Well, yeah, when it comes down to it, right at the very end, being able to go home and spend time with your family and have a good sleep. Right,
That's true. I
is
guess not
success.
having to do 12-hour days. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not the kind of guy that
that's
needs
success.
a massive mansion and go around in a Ferrari or anything like that. It's just being with your friends, having a great time, sitting around a fire pit, and being able to switch off. I
Yeah,
think that's so
exactly.
important, and I think that's one of the things that I hope, as you as a staff member of ours or a team member, is knowing that on a Friday afternoon you've got the weekend to yourself. I'm not going to contact you. It's so important, I think.
Yeah.
And a lot of agencies out there that I've even worked for expect that you are going to do extra
Oh,
work.
yeah, for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why people get burnt out so fast and agencies have such crazy high turnover. Yeah, it's pretty rare that,
Yeah.
like within the team here, that a lot of people have been here a long time.
Yeah, and the retention rate's around 5.5 years. You know, the industry
That's
rate's
crazy.
about 1.5
Yeah,
years. So
not even that, I feel like, especially in marketing. Like a lot of agencies that I've worked with on client side, like social media people last like 2 months. Like,
yeah, and you
it's-
wonder, like, yes, we're working with this agency, but it's the people in it that are running the ship, that are communicating, that
Yeah.
are getting the responses and outputting the work. You know, it could be any agency name. It's the people that are the important thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think
Yeah.
it's one thing that's like underrated with clients. They actually really value having the same person to talk to over and over and having that like build up of knowledge.
Yeah, like it's so true. Like even, client that we got in touch with this week, or reached out to us, hadn't heard from 2 years, and he was just like, "Oh, how's Flo going? Yeah, he's great. He's here. He's just been on holidays." He's like, "Oh, awesome. He's still there. What about, Ali? Yeah, he's still here. Ali's been here for like 8 years or so, and Flo's coming up to almost 10 years. 10 years soon, actually. So yeah,
That's what makes the difference. That's yeah.
And you look back and you see both, all three, Ali, myself, and Flo, who have been here the longest, and we've got the grey hairs happening and receding hairlines.
I know some of the pictures of you guys from like 10 years ago. You all look so little. Yeah, it is
exactly.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's very insightful. I think we'll move on to speed round.
Speed round, let's do it.
Okay. Creative or code?
Creative.
I feel like that's just to deviate from the speed round. It's an interesting question for you because I feel like with most guests, they probably have a distinct preference. But with you, you're like bang in the middle, like, yeah.
Well, because ID digital ID is meant to be for identity. It also, our previous business name was Intense Design. And I remember when I was trying to come up with my name, I typed in the thesaurus all these different words that I wanted the business to mean. And the one that came up the most was intense. And then Intense Design became ID Digital. We wanted to make sure, because Intense Design, it sounded like we just did design. We didn't do
exactly.
work websites or coding or anything. So that's why we chose 10, 12 years ago to change our name to ID Digital Agency. And agency obviously means that you're an agency in full service, and I don't know, it steps you up a little bit as well. And then, so ID and digital, creative and code, that's where we wanted to pivot ourselves or position ourselves as being really good at design and really good at code in the one house, all here locally, no offshore, anything like that. And you'll find if you ask other agencies, they might have their management team and their design team here, but they're offshore.
For their
else.
devs, which
and
can be challenging.
Challenging, and most agencies do it to cut costs. And they know that they'll get a fixed price and the output's this. Well, what I found, the output, you want it to be, great, but you get good.
Yeah.
And we don't want good, we want great.
Exactly.
And sometimes that's a problem for us. Like, we always want to deliver better. And even if the client's gone, look, I want to do, the baseline model, not the high-end model, we still, somehow, and we just want to give them more, which isn't a bad thing, I think,
It's a good problem to have, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry, speed round.
Back to speed round. Favorite design tool?
Figma.
Favorite website?
Mashable.
How many hours per week do you work?
About 55 on average.
That's a lot of hours. What is the first app you open every day?
Probably Instagram. There's messages in there from my mates. We've got a community called the Sauna Squad. We catch up every Wednesday night and have saunas. It is the best thing. And it's just, look, there's no phones. I know it's a speed round, but you can't bring your phone into a sauna. And it's just talking about stuff that have happened during the week, hearing if there's been any issues or whatever with some of your mates. You build each other up, you give you confidence, and off you go. And you've burnt 350 calories.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
sitting on your
when
bum.
you've all got families and stuff, it's a good moment away from it all.
Yeah.
Where are we up to? Coffee or tea?
None.
And what do you drink instead?
Either hot chocolate or decaf.
Decaf?
Coffee. Yeah, I know it sounds weak.
What's the
but
purpose?
I like the taste of coffee, but I get anxiety attacks and all that kind of stuff if I have Red Bulls or
Right.
V's or any kind of caffeine, basically. So I steer away from
build
that.
up your
I've got
tolerance.
enough going on in my head that I don't need extra
That makes sense.
stuff. Yeah.
Dark mode or light mode?
Dark.
Mac or PC?
Mac.
Work from home or work from office?
Definitely from the office.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Can you plug
Charlie?
plug
Yeah.
Charlie the dog, our
Yeah,
mascot?
we've got Charlie. He's 12. He's getting a bit old, but he does come in whenever
does,
we can.
yeah.
But we've got to be mindful. Yeah, a couple of our team members don't like dogs,
Hmm.
so he can come in if they're unwell or on holidays. So he
Yeah,
comes in as much
he
as
is
he
a
can.
little bit. I feel like I might maybe get a little bit less done when he's here. It's
okay.
He's just so cute.
Yeah.
Favorite font?
Italian plate because it's our latest font
Nice.
on our website. Yeah,
Design or spec?
I like design. I have to write spec.
What's your favorite snack while working?
Anything that's there's a jar downstairs at reception or a little bowl, and they've got Chupa Chup little chewy things. There's the natural confectionery ones. There's
Yeah.
Redskins, but they're called something else now. I don't know, just passing through and going, oh yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, they have a good selection there.
Yeah.
They've really branched out.
3 o'clock kind of,
Yeah, you
sugar
just need a little
injection
bit
or
of
something.
sugar. Yeah, perfect for that.
Yeah,
Pineapple on pizza.
definitely.
Agree. Summer or winter?
Summer. Love being warm.
City or country?
It's hard, that one. City, I like it because of the buzz and what's going on. Country, just to get away.
Have you ever lived country?
No.
Oh,
People think I might live in the country. I live a fair way away from the city, but it's not
you
country.
don't really, though.
No.
I think
Not
you
the-
need to.
You're from the country.
I'm from the country. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think you need to go out and live. It's a good vibe out there. Yeah. Final question: would you rather time travel into the past or into the future?
Yeah, we've spoken about this before.
We
but I
have.
think in the past, I would. Yeah, it's tough because you'd want to go back to the past. Well, I would, because then things are a lot quieter. There's not so much going on in your life. Funnily enough, when mobile phones came out and the internet and all that kind of stuff, it was meant to make your life easier. You didn't have to go so many places. You could do video calls, or you could, contact people or whatever. But it's actually made our lives harder because there's so much more you can squeeze into every day.
Yeah.
So I'd love to be able to, I don't know what era, probably the 1980s or something, where you still had electricity, you still had
like TV
music,
and stuff, and
massive amps and speakers.
yeah,
and- yeah.
But you can still switch off in a sense you can't today.
Yeah, like when you go home, your boss isn't going to call you and ask
Yeah.
you to make an update because your laptop's there. Like,
Exactly.
these computers were big and you had to go into work.
I just
So
don't know how I could function. Like,
What would you miss the most?
just my phone.
What's
Like,
on your phone that you'd miss though?
I don't know, like social media.
That's you're in the right industry, aren't you?
Yeah, it's more just like growing up with that kind of stuff, you're so used to having that at every moment. Like, I don't think I could just like stand on a train without like having anything to look
know.
at. I just don't like. What would I do?
I know this is going to sound weird, but about 3 or 4 months ago, I went on the train, and I know that
Whoa.
sounds weird for people who are on public transport all the time.
Yes.
But I kept my phone in my pocket, and I stared out the window and had all these thoughts, and I don't know, it was just good to switch off. And I know, like, because when I went, it was like 10 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't rush hour, so I was
Yeah,
not squeezed
true.
up and smelling someone's armpit or anything like that. But I don't know, it was just a nice. And then you get off and you walk, and sun was out, and again, sometimes it's raining or hailing. But I don't know, it was just a
It's
nice moment. And
See, I like to when I see people on the tram sitting there with like no headphones, nothing. I'm like, what are they up to?
Yeah.
Suspicious.
There's something weird about
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
Yeah.
They're just sitting there.
And there's
minding
that
their own
craze
business.
at the moment on the planes. Have you seen that? Called raw dogging.
Yes. Just watching the plane map.
Yeah, not even
My mum
all
does that.
or just staring at the chair in front
Yeah.
of you and not moving for like 18 hours or whatever it is.
I can't see when I'm on the plane. I watch like 10 movies back to back,
Yeah.
and my mum sits there like raw dogging, like sits and just does nothing for 24 hours, like flying to the UK.
I guess it's
I don't
like
understand.
the monks or whatever that just meditate all day and they just sit there and there must be something going on in
I
here.
know. Maybe it's like part of the kind of agency curse is you've got too much like going on in your head at all times that's not possible for our kind of people.
We had that meditation class,
Oh yeah, in Central House.
whatever that was, and
yeah.
yeah, the breathing technique, the square breathing technique.
Yeah.
Which, I saw even Chris Hemsworth was doing on
Oh,
one of his-
really?
Yeah, the
pretty cool.
latest. He's Limitless TV show. If you haven't seen it, it's worth it. Chris Hemsworth, Limitless. I think it's on Disney from memory. Anyway, yeah, he does this square thing where you breathe in for 5 seconds, pause for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, pause. And yeah, you do it for a minute. Your heart rate goes down. You're thinking better. You're getting a lot more air and oxygen into your body. Anyway. We're digressing.
Pretty cool.
I've learned to do that every so often. You might see I might go out for a couple of minutes and it's just me going into a booth and doing my breathing techniques. And then you feel a lot better and then your mind's thinking clearer and you can get the work done.
I mean, it's staring at a screen all day. Isn't the whole thing every hour you're supposed to take 10 minutes away from a screen or something like that? Like, there's no way we could realistically do that. So I guess breathing's the next best thing.
Yeah, breathe it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the end of the speed round.
Cool.
Thank you for the conversation, Jay.
No, I
very
appreciate
insightful.
It. Thanks for hosting this one.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, if anyone is interested in coming onto the podcast, definitely send us an email. The email address is in the show notes as well as at the end of this outro or whatever you call it. But
Yes,
yeah,
you could be the next guest.
Could be.
Could be.
Yeah, but who's next is Emily. I'm going to do the reverse and
I'm not going
find
to
out
have
a bit more about you.
quite as much insight.
You never know. Anyway,
who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see.
That's right. Stay tuned.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Creative and Code podcast.
That's all, folks.
We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it as inspiring and entertaining as we did. Remember, there are plenty more episodes to explore, so make sure you keep listening for more creative insights and coding tips. A big shout out to our amazing sponsors and the team at ID Digital Agency for making this podcast possible. Got a story to share or want to be a guest on our show? We'd love to hear from you. Send us a 2-minute or less audio clip to creativeandcode at iddigital.com.au. Suggestions, ideas, or just want to say hi, we're all ears. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, stay creative and keep coding.